The email was signed, "Love from your parent, Stephanie." It was the first communication I'd received from my parent in years. My father and I had barely spoken in a quarter century. As a child, I had resented and later feared him. And when I was a teenager, he had left the family, or rather been forced to leave by my mother and by the police after a season of escalating violence. Despite our long alienation, I thought I understood enough of my father's character to have had some inkling of an inclination this profound. I had none. As a child, when we had lived together in a colonial tract house in the suburban town of Yorktown Heights, an hour's drive north of Manhattan, I'd always known my father to assert the male prerogative. He had seemed invested, insistently, inflexibly, and in the last year of our family life, bloodily, in being the household despot. We ate what he wanted to eat, traveled where he wanted to go, wore what he wanted us to wear. Domestic decisions, large and small, had first to meet his approval. One evening when my mother proposed taking a part-time job at the local newspaper, he'd made his phallocratic views especially clear. He'd swept the dinner dishes to the floor. "No," he shouted, slamming his fists on the table. "No job!" For as far back as I could remember, he had presided as imperious patriarch, overbearing and autocratic, even as he remained a cipher, cryptic, to everyone around him. I also knew him as the rugged outdoorsman, despite his slender build, mountaineer, rock climber, ice climber, sailor, horseback rider, long-distance cyclist, with the costumes to match: alpenstock, Bavarian hiking knickers, alpine balaclava, climber's harness, yachter's cap, English riding chaps. In so many of these pursuits, I was his accompanist, an increasingly begrudging one as I approached adolescence, second mate to his captain on the Klepper sailboat he built from a kit, belaying partner on his weekend essays of the Shawangunk cliffs, second cyclist on his Cross the Alps biking tours, tent-pitching assistant on his Adirondack bivouacs, all of which required vast numbers of hours of training, traveling, sharing close quarters. Yet my memory of these ventures is nearly a blank. What did we talk about on the long winter evenings once the tent was raised, the firewood collected, the tinned provisions pried open with the Swiss Army knife my father always carried in his pocket? Was I suppressing all those father-daughter tete-a-tetes, or did they just not happen? Year after year, from Lake Mohonk to Lake Lugano, from the Appalachians to Zermatt, we tacked and backpacked, rappelled and pedaled. Yet in all that time, I can't say he ever showed himself to me. He seemed to be permanently undercover, behind a wall of his own construction, watching from behind that one-way mirror in his head. It was not, at least to a teenager craving privacy, a friendly surveillance. I sometimes regarded him as a spy, intent on blending into our domestic circle, prepared to do whatever it took to evade detection. For all of his aggressive domination, he remained somehow invisible. "It's like he never lived here," my mother said to me on the day after the night he left our house for good, 20 years into their marriage. When I was 14, 2 years before my parents' separation, I joined the junior varsity track team. Girls' sports in 1973 was a faintly ridiculous notion, and the high school track coach, who was first and foremost the coach of the boys' team, mostly ignored his distaff charges. I designed my own training regimen, leaving the house before dawn and loping the side streets to Mohansick State Park, a manicured recreation area that used to be the grounds for a state insane asylum, where I ran a long circuit around the landscaped terrain alone. By then I had developed a preference for solo sports. Early one August morning, I was lacing my sneakers in the front hall when I sensed a subtle atmospheric change, like the drop in barometric pressure as a cold front approaches, or the prodromal thrumming before a migraine, which signaled to my aggrieved adolescent mind the arrival of my father. I reluctantly turned and made out his pale, thin frame emerging from the gloom at the bend of the stairs. He was wearing jogging shorts and tennis sneakers. He paused on the last step. step.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.